This is the award-winning In-Wheel Time Car Show, your weekly go-to all things automotive place, along with Mike Out of This World Mars, King Conrad DeLong, and Jeff Zekin off screen there. I'm Don Armstrong. Glad that you could join us on this absolutely gorgeous Saturday here in Houston, Texas. I mean, it is, you can't, Chamber of Commerce has nothing to do with this.
There's not a cloud in the sky. The temperature's cool. The humidity's down.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but fall only lasts 3 days in
Well,
Houston.
I know. This is one of those 3 days, though. We're going to take it when we can get it.
Thank you for our bubble buster. I appreciate that. All right, so we've got a very interesting guest with a very interesting topic. Mars found this, and I thought, what? Who? Where? Okay, so
Don's lost.
I want to introduce you to Andy and Mercedes Lilienthal. There they are, and they happen to own a 1994 Mitsubishi Delica, I think that's the way you pronounce it, 4x4 minivan. And it's a project that they had, and a cross-country, they drove cross-country to buy this, and then they drove back to Utah to upgrade it into a project car, basically. And so it's great to see you both. Thank you all very much, both of you, for joining us this morning. We really appreciate it. So I don't know, where am I speaking to you from?
We live in Oregon.
In Oregon, actually.
You're in Oregon, out there on the left coast. So,
Yes.
Welcome to Texas.
Welcome to Texas. So I want to know a little bit about you guys. Are you guys car aficionados?
Yes. Yeah, very much
Everything,
so.
so.
Yeah. Have been all of our lives, pretty much.
So apparently, did you know that before you met?
No. We actually met on the way to a car show in Chicago back in 2000, believe it or not. And
An import car show.
yeah, we happened to go to the same college, didn't know each other there, and we had a mutual friend in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and I was driving down there, and they asked if she could hitch a ride with me, and I said, yeah, sure, and
We haven't stopped talking since.
yeah, that's about it. That's about how it started.
That in itself is a great story to begin with. And
Yeah.
how long have you guys been married?
16 years.
16 years. 16 years.
A while.
Count. Let me figure it out.
All right.
Yeah,
Right,
hands,
right,
toes,
yeah.
right.
Been together for over 20 years, but married 16.
Gotcha. So what kind of car did you guys each have when you got married?
Ooh.
I had
Good question.
a souped up Nissan Sentra SER. Basically, it was a four-door.
Sure, I remember
Nissan
those.
Sentra SER with SR20DE engine and a bunch of modifications to it. Would drag race it and autocross and that kind of stuff.
I had a first model year teal-colored Volkswagen Jetta GL3 sedan. So, more of a basic car, but, after that we got into a lot more imports and Hondas and then got into the 4x4 scene in addition to imports. We still have a couple imports as well.
So that's where kind of I'm heading with this sort of stuff. So I understand that you guys somehow decided that you wanted to go after a 1994 Mitsubishi Delica 4x4 minivan. What in the world possessed you to seek something like that out? I didn't even know such a thing even existed.
Well, so long story short, we had an '89 Mitsubishi Delica, which was totally different. Her godmother lives in New Zealand, and when we were there, she had one of these earlier vans, and I kind of fell in love with it. It was four-wheel drive, turbo diesel. You could camp in it. It was traveling. It was great. We just happened to find one locally, and then we sold that one in May of this year.
Yep.
And the newer generation, which is the Delica Space Gear, came up for sale. It was the right vehicle in the wrong location, and
Well, we flew across the country to basically buy it in Florida and then drive it all the way back to Oregon.
Oh my God.
That's how we roll.
Wow. Well, I mean, that's one heck of a road trip. I can only imagine the size of the suitcase as you checked. Did you go on the airplane to go get it?
We flew there. Yeah, we ended up flying there. So we packed essentials, camp essentials, because, we wanted to make sure to distance ourselves the whole entire way back. So we didn't, stay in any hotels. We slept in the van. We slept at truck stops. So we had some of our camp gear. We brought Mountain House, meals, bunch of granola bars, things like that, cooking fuel after the fact, and made our way across the country.
Now, what an absolutely amazing story.
But the Mitsubishi Delica, was that never a domestically sold vehicle, though, is it? That's what would be called a JDM, a Japanese domestic market or an Australian market vehicle that was imported into the United States by an individual.
That's correct. The closest thing we got was a couple of years in the U.S. Mitsubishi did sell what they simply called the van. It was the first generation, or not the first generation, but the L300 Star Wagon body style, but only available in two-wheel drive with an automatic transmission.
The Star
It was only available
Wagon.
for about 3 model years, and then they axed it. And so you're right. This vehicle had been imported from Japan to Florida.
And do you have any pictures you could share?
We do.
We would like to see the Delica.
Yeah, you
All
bet.
right, let me see how to do this here.
Okay,
Just a
so
quick second.
and while you're doing that, I have to ask the question. So, and this is not a derogatory thing. Please don't take it that way. But I consider myself one. Y'all are car nerds.
Oh, totally. My gosh. we are car geeks to the nth degree, and we geek out about, maybe different cars than other people might geek out about, for sure. I mean, trust me, I love anything with a crankshaft. We run a website called Crankshaft Culture, and we truly believe every vehicle is an adventure. And whether that's a 57 Chevy that is amazing, or even if you're into, it doesn't matter. Like, if you're into cars, I'm totally all about that.
All right,
But your passion sounds like it's a little bit more built around the Japanese market vehicles with your Sentra, and then seems like possibly the imported Japanese vehicles that aren't typically sold here in the States.
That's correct.
So is your
correct.
Mitsubishi a right-hand drive?
Yes, it is. It's actually one of 3 that we have. We have one van, and then we have 2 Mitsubishi Pajeros. And the Pajeros are basically Japanese market Monteros. So the Montero was sold in the United States up until, I think, 2006, if I remember correctly. And ours is a short wheelbase.
Yeah, kind of a mid-size SUV.
Right. Ours is a short wheelbase, 2-door. Both are turbo diesel. One just got a brand new engine in it. And yeah, they're lifted and 4-wheel drive and souped up for off-roading, that kind of stuff.
all right.
I just sent you guys a couple photos.
Oh, you just sent it to us. Okay. Well, maybe we can get that up there. But I want everybody to know, I guess the vehicle, the Delica, is available to be seen on crankshaftculture.com.
Correct, yes.
Okay, good. So we can steer everybody over there. We're trying to find the picture now. So at any rate, I just find it fascinating that you have sought out a unique, to say the least, vehicle to work on. Can you find parts for this?
No.
Well,
No,
what do you do when it breaks down?
Fix it.
Yeah. Call AAA. No.
Yeah, right.
It's the parts are actually they're not too bad. The version that we got was introduced in 1994, and so because of the United States 25-year-old import law, meaning you can't bring anything in that was not sold in the U.S. if it's newer than 25 years. Parts for these aren't quite as easy as some of the older vans, but there's a lot of components that were shared with the Montero. The engine and transfer case, the transmission were all from the Japanese market Pajero. But with the way shipping is, I should say was before COVID, I can get parts from Europe, parts from Japan in 4 or 5 days. It's not too bad. I mean, my local auto parts store can't get stuff that fast sometimes.
Well, it's weird looking. I don't know how else to put it. It looks weird. Well, and that's a compliment. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that.
I was trying to figure out how to share this here, so hopefully you guys got the photos. Otherwise, I think I might be able to share my screen.
Yeah, we've had them there. We're just not keeping them up.
There we go.
Yeah. So this is a very rounded off kind of minivan looking thing, but it does have 4-wheel drive. It's got kind of a really neat trick transfer case to it. It's called Super Select. So you've got 2-wheel drive, you've got 4-wheel drive high with an open center differential, you've got 4-wheel drive high with a locked center differential, and then you've got true 4-wheel low for when you're in the rocks or in the mud and you need that extra bit of grunt. It's got a 2.8 liter turbo diesel engine with a top mount intercooler on it. Makes about 140 horsepower and 230 foot-pounds of torque, and it does pretty well. Easily cruises at 75 miles an hour, no problem. The earlier van that we had a different engine that was not intercooled. It was only about 89 horsepower, 140 foot-pounds torque. And it was happiest at 65, 60 and under. So this one you can really, I could probably even go the speed limit in Texas in this thing.
Oh, my gosh. Okay, so y'all hold that thought. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with you in just a second, okay? Stand by. All right, we're going to take a quick break here on the In Wheel Time Car Show. We're going to talk more about the Delica right after this.
911, what's your emergency?
God, there's a train that just hit a car.
Sir, what is your location? Look around for a street sign, sir.
It's 8th and Orchard. 8th and Orchard.
Okay, very good. 8th and Orchard. Sir, help is on the way.
Why would he do that? The train still doesn't stop. You have to get there now.
At a railway crossing, even if the engineer sees you and hits the brakes, it can take a mile for the train to stop. And for you, that's too late. Stop. Trains can't. Paid for by NHTSA.
Welcome back to the In Wheel Time Car Show on this beautiful Saturday in Houston, Texas. And I don't think the weather could be any better than it is right here today.
Gorgeous.
So we're talking to Andy and Mercedes Lilienthal. They happen to own a thing called Crankshaft Culture, and they also happen to own now a 1994 Mitsubishi Delica. So I have to ask you guys, how in the world did you search this out and find it on the internet, or did you just happen across it thinking, okay, well, this is exactly kind of what we're looking for, let's go for it? How did that work?
Yeah, so because we already had the previous generation, we knew we wanted to stick with a Mitsubishi Delica van. We didn't specifically want necessarily this model, but we had the chance to go check one out, and we thought, it's a little bit safer, more powerful, and we decided, let's go see what the market has. And it just so happens that I was on Mitsubishi, it's called delicaforum.com, run by our friend Kellen Carr in Fort Myers, Florida, and he just happened to message me one day and said, "Hey, I saw you were selling your van." I said, "Yeah." He says, "Yeah, I just picked this 94 Delica up." He says, "It's really cool." He says, "I'm probably going to list it soon." I'm like, "Well, that's cool." He said, "It's not by chance a 5-speed manual, is it?" He says, "Yeah, it is." He says, "Are you interested?" I said, "I just might be." I said, "Where are you located?" He said, Florida. I said, "Well, that's too bad." But, sometimes it's just worth it. The two Pajeros that we have, we actually flew to Texas twice and bought the Pajeros in Texas, one in Houston and one in Austin.
And drove them back.
And drove those back. So if it's the right car, sometimes it's the right car, and you do what you need to do to get it.
All right, so here, what do you guys do for a real living?
So I'm a full-time automotive journalist and freelancer. I do various marketing services, social media management, PR things for automotive clients as well. I write for several different automotive publications, as well as the New York Times Wheels section. So actually the story on how we bought this vehicle and drove it back is one of the articles that I wrote ended up in the New York Times in that wheel section. So
that's got to be an award-winning piece that you did.
Well, I hope so someday. As far as award winning, that'd be great. But yeah, so that's what I do. So I do a lot of writing, work with a lot of different automotive clients and publications. And then Andy?
Yeah, so my full-time job is at Warren Industries. We're often best known for our winches and hubs and bumpers, that kind of stuff. I'm the strategic communications manager there, so I do PR, media relations, copywriting. I've been there on and off since about 2006. And then I'm also a part-time automotive journalist. I write for a magazine called Trails, as well as select other publications here and there. And then, of course, we run Crankshaft Culture.
So how many Delicas are there in the U.S., do you know?
You know what? Somebody actually just brought that question up online the other day. I have no idea.
I've never seen one
popular.
before.
Okay. They're most popular, it seems, in the Northwest and the Northeast, for what it's worth. Part of that might be the relationship to Canada, because they're super popular up in British Columbia. I mean, relatively speaking. But there's quite a bit of them in British Columbia.
Well, in Canada, they only have a 15-year import law versus us in the U.S. having a 25-year import law. And what that basically means is Canada, if a vehicle that's a JDM vehicle or from Australia or wherever, if somebody wants to import it, they only have to wait 15 years in order to bring it in. We in the U.S. have to wait 25 years. So this body style of the Space Gear Delica, or otherwise known as the L400 variant, just was legal to start being brought in last year. So as far as this specific van style is very rare still in the U.S. because, U.S. has only had it for, a year and a little over half.
Right. So it's the newest one you can get, though, in the United States.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
this is a 1994. So exactly, this is the first one of that body style that you can get in for the first model year.
All right, let's go back. How was the road trip from Florida all the way across? What was that, a 2,000-mile trip?
Oh, at least.
I think it was more closer to 3,300.
Yeah, 3,300,
Oh
3,500,
my God!
something around there.
And
that's
how long
just driving.
how long did it take you to make the journey?
A long time.
Yeah, we started in Fort Myers, Florida, and drove it all the way back to Portland, Oregon. I think we stopped for the night outside Atlanta. We stopped in Oklahoma. We stopped in Colorado, and then we got home. So I think it took us about five days. But I think we spent 2 nights in. Actually, we spent 2 nights in Colorado.
We stayed a little bit in time in Colorado, but other than that, we pretty much slept at truck stops and whatever food, went to the bathroom there obviously and grabbed some food if we didn't have it along with us, and that's how we minimized.
And you had no car problems.
No car,
not really.
Thank goodness. I'll tell you what, though. We brought a fairly big. It's kind of this big kind of like outdoorsy camping bag. I made sure whenever I travel with a vehicle like this, I always make sure I have my tool roll with me, which has got my basic, your 10 millimeter, your 12, your 14, 17, 19, and a couple other things, big hammer.
Well, I don't know about you, but
tape and zip ties.
I was just going to say I'm a big duct tape and coat hanger and pliers kind of guy.
We had to bring what we could only bring on the airplane.
And Don has a metric hammer.
Yeah. So we made sure we had some tools with us, but we had no problems with the vehicle. Thankfully, it drove very well. One of the challenges actually though was obtaining a temporary permit to drive it. Oregon issues what they call trip permits. I think Texas does too, right? And so we had to get some sort of proof that we actually owned this vehicle, and so Mercedes ended up calling pretty much each state that we rolled through and
13 states worth of state trooper offices. I called.
Yeah, asked if our Oregon trip permit would be valid, and believe it or not, we're still waiting on registration just because our DMVs are still not open to the public due to COVID-19. So we got this thing in May. We're still rolling on a trip permit from June. So
this is an absolute novel. Waiting to be written if you haven't written it already, Mercedes.
Yeah, it's you're not the first person to say that we should write a book or a short story series that's more than crankshaftculture.com. Maybe someday. We certainly have enough adventures with all of our right-hand.
Well, I'll tell you what, this would have made a great docu-series to go with you guys on the plane, the flight down to Fort Myers.
Jump into a car you don't know anything about, that there's no parts available in the United States for.
It has just a little bit of roadkill kind of thing going for it there. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Listen, you guys are an absolute delight to talk to. So glad that we hooked up with you. Hey, be sure and stay in touch with us and let us know about the next adventure, whatever it may be, because I'm sure that it's going to be enjoyable for all of us to hear.
Sounds good. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us. And maybe next time we'll talk about how we're building it up, because we're customizing it right now.
Absolutely. And when you come through Houston, be sure and look us up, okay?
Will do.
Fantastic. Thanks for
All right.
having us.
Andy and Mercedes Lilienthal with the 1994 Mitsubishi Delica. What a road trip! I can't think of. I can't.
Yeah,
I mean,
we couldn't look at it. I talked to her about looking at it now. Maybe some live shots, but it's in the shop, getting some of the modifications done that they're doing to it to get it ready. So it'd be good to talk to them.
Crankshaftculture.com is their website.
Yeah.
You got something to say? Open the cutouts and let us know about it. All you have to do is shoot us an email, info@inwheeltime.com. A splash and go now, and we're back with Conrad's Car Clinic right after this.
Brad's buzzed.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he's starting with the woots. And now a speech.
I just want to say that friendship is about heart and brain. Who's with me?
Good thing is, he knows when he's buzzed.
And my brain is saying, when it's time to go home, somebody call me a ride.
Love that guy.
Me too.
Know your buzzed warning signs? Call for a ride when it's time to go home. Buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
A social distancing tip.
While the CDC urges you to avoid close contact, like hugging or shaking hands, there are other non-physical ways to say hello. Wave, wink, use sign language, salute, smile, give the peace sign, throw up an air high five, do jazz hands. Remember, stay a minimum of 6 feet or 2 arms length away from others, and stay home if you can. For more info, visit coronavirus.gov.
Let's all do our part, because we're all #alone together. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Andy and Mercedes Lilienthal. That's an award-winning interview right there. That is some good stuff. Welcome back to the In Wheel Time program on this Saturday. Kind of wrapping things up. It's time now for Conrad's Car Clinic, though. And today we're going to talk about windshield wipers. And I had an old 1954 Chevrolet pickup truck that had vacuum-operated windshield wipers, and what a pain in the butt that was.
But that's an improvement, because I wanted to talk today about who invented the windshield wiper. And you may wonder about that question, and only to find out that a woman filed the patent for windshield wipers before before the automobile was even first made. That she had, Mary Anderson was on a trip from New York, and she was inspired to design a windshield cleaning device as she was riding along in a streetcar, and the streetcar operator had to stick his head out the window to look, and I guess he bumped into something, and she kind of freaked out. So she designed a wiper system that was like some rags on some sticks that were attached, and the guy used it manually inside to clean the windshield when he needed to. It didn't run full time. It wasn't electric. It was
his arm got tired.
Yeah, it was on a crank. But she had patented it, and then a patent is only good for 17 years. So by the time it rolled into where they were putting windshield wipers on cars, the wipers on cars really didn't come as standard equipment until the 40s. They were options prior to that, which I thought was the weirdest.
Well, I saw a movie. I don't know where it was. This just past week, and they actually it was a manual thing, and they just went up at the top of the windshield header up there and then swiped it manually.
It was a hand, what I call a hand crank, and they would just sweep the hand crank from side to side.
It was on a bus, I think it was.
And that's what worked the wipers, and that was her design, but she never profited from her patent of wipers on cars. Again, like I said, it wasn't until the 40s that automotive manufacturers began including wipers on all of their products as standard equipment. So she's not a well-known name, but she really impacted the industry. If you think about it, early wipers were again, manually operated, and then after that they became vacuum operated. So it was actually hooked up to the vacuum created by the engine, which was great as long as you were at an idle or at a low speed, because as soon as you got on it, the wipers stopped working because there was no more engine vacuum. Or if you were climbing up a hill, your wipers had stopped working again because there was no more engine vacuum. And originally, there was just a single speed to the wiper. The way you varied the speed on the vacuum ones was rev the engine They'd slow down and speed up.
Going down a hill, they work great.
Yeah.
Going up a hill, they didn't work at all.
And then they came out with the electric wipers and then the dual speed wipers. And there's a great story, and we'll talk about it next week, about intermittent wipers and the intrigue behind intermittent wipers. But something to remember, if your wipers are streaking or they're scratching the windshield or they're torn or something, you need to have them replaced. I'm a believer probably replacing them at minimum of once a year.
Absolutely.
If not twice a year, depends on how much dirty. Yeah, well, twice a year just because of how dirty and how much use they get, because and the heat that damages the rubber or the plastic of the wipers.
I did not realize how bad the wipers were on the Corvette until I replaced them. Oh, my God, what a difference a day makes. Yeah, and I think total price on 2 wipers, and they're the great big long ones, for the Corvette, $22, $25, under $25.
Not bad at all. And you got to remember, your wipers have to be at a certain level of performance to pass state inspection. So,
yeah, I've seen state inspections where they go with the rubber thing kind of
flying off,
in 2 different pieces.
And they still pass them. So.
Yeah, exactly.
But if you don't get your wiper corrected, it can start scratching your windshield, and then it's permanent.
That's very irritating when it does that.
Well, look forward to next week when we talk about the
intermittent intrigue.
Yeah, exactly, because that's a relatively new thing. They didn't have that. Yeah.
69 is when intermittent wipers started, and killer story behind it.
I want to remind everybody about the upcoming race out at Houston Motorsports Park. It's called Boobs Rock, and it's going to be a powder puff eco stock race out there. It's coming up on October the 17th. All classes of racing are going to occur, but they're going to focus on breast cancer awareness, so it's going to be a powder puff. So girls. And it's going to be a great event, October the 17th. Mark it on your calendars. Tickets are cheap. Go to NASCARHouston.com and get more information on that.
Are you driving the pace car?
Yeah.
The black Corvette pace car.
Yeah, so I'll do
the official pace car of.
I don't know about that. I share the duties with a guy.
We need to get him a pink shirt made with in-wheel time on it for that race.
With cutouts.
I didn't do it. I swear I didn't do it. I didn't say it.
I don't.
Info at inwheeltime.com. Thanks, Gina.
I'm just going to move on. I think you mentioned this earlier. I'll mention it again. Honda will end its participation as an engine supplier in the FIA Formula One World Championship at the end of next season to focus on zero emissions technology. This is a release that they sent out yesterday. It's not a result of coronavirus pandemic because, as the president said, the president of Formula One said, it's because of, or Formula One from Honda said, because of our longer-term carbon-free goal.
And Honda's actually just become very competitive in their engine program in F1. Great time to leave.
Honda's departure will leave only Mercedes, Ferrari, and Renault as Formula One engine makers.
I thought that was Renault.
Dolphin. PSA Group and Fiat Chrysler have named the 11 members of the board of directors for Stellantis, the new company that will result from the automakers' merger coming up next year. Carlos Tavares, the CEO of PSA and the future CEO of Stellantis, is on the board, but Mike Manley, CEO of Fiat Chrysler, is not in that. So there's that.
So you know Manley, don't you?
Yeah.
I've interviewed him several times
on the show.
Mike and I know Mike Manley. So we've just been joined by some special guests.
We have a live studio audience today.
And they brought liquor.
they brought liquor for themselves, but not for us.
That's all right. We can fix that.
Yeah, so hopefully it won't be long now before the party begins. And I did mention that Ford recalling 700,000 vehicles in North America because of a poor electrical connection that may cause the rear view camera to display intermittently a blank or distorted image, increasing the risk of a crash.
So it's pretty much is like our Zoom meetings.
They took a lesson from us.
Intermittently, we don't have Zoom.
Yes, or guests don't show up when they're not invited, that sort of thing. Oh, I'm sorry. That was.
You think Seth is watching?
I'm so sorry.
You think Seth is watching?
I hope not. We love you, Seth.
We'll have him back on.
Yeah. Seth Angel was supposed to join us today, but I don't think that he got word or the invitation, actually. So, but we're going to have him back on. He is the president general manager out there at Houston Raceway Park that's going to have the NHRA event at the end of the month on October the 24th.
Be there. Wow, you gotta sign up for tickets.
Yes, and we will be there, as a matter of fact.
Yes, we will.
And so that ought to be. We always enjoy going out there because we got all the NHRA drivers, and we're working on all of that as we speak. And Mike is working feverishly with Toyota on that sort of thing. So thank you. So there's that. So remember that. Well, that's it for this episode of the In Wheel Time Car Show. Hey, when you're on Facebook, please give us a like and tell your friends about us. You'll get Conrad's Unicorn hunting features along with all things automotive all week long. In Wheel Time Car Show streams on Facebook, YouTube, and on InWheelTime.com. 30-minute daily podcasts are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher Radio, iHeart Podcast, Google Podcast, and Podcast Addict. Special thanks to all of our guests today, and especially the Lilienthals. That was quite an interview. The In Wheel Time Chief Engineer is the fabulous David Ainsley. Our video and marketing chieftain and tire dictionary is Jeff Zekin. This week's In Wheel Time Car Show is produced and directed by Monica Lewinsky. For booking agent and podcast man Mike Out of This World Mars, his royalty King Conrad DeLong, and Jeff Zekin, I'm Don Armstrong saying so long for now, and we hope you'll join us again for our next live show every Saturday, 9:30 to noon, right here on the Smoke and Mirrors Network. Thanks for being part of the In Wheel Time family. Enjoy your weekend. Mask up, wash those nasty hands, and stay sanitary. We'll see you tomorrow morning at Prince's Hamburgers at Sharpstown Golf Course for the monthly Chrome and Coffee get-together. That's 9 to noon. So long for now. We'll see you next week.